Hey, welcome everybody. We are tonight. We have a couple guests joining us from the Red Pill Religion side, although they're not actually part of Red Pill Religion, but they're friends with Dean Esmay, aka Max Kolbe. We got the White Injun and Mr. Brass. If he fixes his computer connection, we're working on that. He needs to find a better spot in his house for this Wi-Fi, but he's gonna be working on that. But I do got the White Injun in here, and we've kind of been talking a little bit earlier on what exactly Max Kolbe is having issues with as far as Shannon, KC, King Crocoduck, even I guess a little bit myself and the more of the atheist community as a whole, I guess. And it seems to be a huge disconnect because honestly, I don't know what the hell he's talking about half the time. He seems to have this mental image in his head of this cabal of atheists that are just trying to dominate the world and dominate YouTube. And as somebody who's in the skeptic community and knows a lot of these people, I don't know who the hell he's talking about. I don't see this. I have no idea. It's like he's taking the approach that Atheist Plus had like 5 years ago and not recognizing that it's 2018 and things have changed and the people that are in the skeptic community are not the same people. So anyways, Mr. Brass, you want to try your connection real quick?
Yeah. Is this better?
It's better. Yeah, it's better. Still have that high pitched whine, so mute when you're not talking. But yeah, it's better.
All right, good. It's probably just my I use Wi-Fi. I use my phone. I use one of my friends' Wi-Fi, so that's probably why it's like that.
Yeah, let's try to get as close to the source as possible because I think that you're just on the fringe range. That's what's causing that.
All right.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, White Injun, buddy, you there?
Yeah.
Okay, so kind of fill us in here. I mean, I've watched a little bit of the last thing that you guys had. I didn't watch all of it by any means. It was 2 hours or something. Can you just kind of tell us what the hell the issue is on that side of the fence? Because I honestly don't get it, dude. I just don't.
Basically, I'm not going to pretend to speak for him, but the red pill approach more or less gives back what it gets.
Why does he feel like he got something particularly? He didn't have a lot of nice things to say about me, and I don't feel like I did anything in particular to.
Not you. He just thinks you won't own up to it or something.
Own up to what? What is it that I need to own up to? I own up to everything that I say. So
they're not my words.
Yeah, no, but what do you know what he's referring? Because the problem is the disconnect is nobody knows what the hell he's referring to.
Because he go ahead.
Well, I mean, the thing with like Max is like his approach to the situation is that like if anyone has watched, Max back when, he was in his MRA days, you pretty much know he's always acted the same way as he does now. Even when he was an atheist, this is just a typical thing he's always done. He's always been they've always branded him as sort of like a firebrand, like he says. And he more or less has just like he has had a lot of these issues with the atheist community where they've really done him wrong, where they've harassed him, they've harassed his family.
When's the last time any of this has happened? Because again, he lumps everybody into this one group. I don't think Shannon's ever harassed anybody. I don't think she would know how to go out of her way to harass anybody.
I could probably figure it out. I don't know why.
She might be able to figure it out. But but what does Shannon do?
Well, more or less, what?
Go ahead.
He basically has a thing against anti-theist, and I mean, to an extent, I do as well, but I'm more or less against like the more idiotic ones that I find on the internet all the time. I'm sure like anybody that goes on YouTube or goes on Facebook and or Reddit or something like that, they'll find them like the more idiotic ones that really have no arguments and just want to throw out assertions.
Well, what do you find that many group of people though? Yeah,
it's true, but what do you consider being an anti-theist? I mean, what? Oh,
that's interesting.
I mean, because people have been using this term anti-theist, and people seem to use it differently, and that's fine as long as I know what the hell they mean by it.
It's new atheist, anti-theist.
New atheist is not synonymous with anti-theist.
I know.
those who shit on religious people all the time and act like they're
That's not
Harvard
anti-theist. That's an asshole.
That's fair.
Well, that's
Yeah.
what anti-theism
Well, I
mostly
mean,
consists of.
I mean, I can go by, I'll use like the rational wiki definition of an anti-theist.
Okay, sure.
So that, so that way, I'm not using Christian sources. I'm not using like any particular bias source. I'll use directly what atheists say.
Okay.
Rational Rick is a little biased, but yeah, go ahead.
I said, like, an anti-theist is different than an atheist because all an atheist applies is a lack of belief in God.
Which I reject.
An anti-theist is mainly just someone that's that plus that they are opposed to religion.
Okay, well, let me ask you this: do you guys
now
believe
you can be?
Well, do you believe in a separation of church and state? Like, like religion and school should not intermix. Do you believe that?
Right. There should be no compulsion in faith.
That's a lot of what anti-theism is.
I mean,
they don't want that mixing more than anything. They don't care if people have religious beliefs for the most part. At least the ones I've talked to.
Yeah, and
they don't want
I
to
am an
impose upon them.
anti-theist, so I can probably speak.
Yeah, Shannon, I'm not, so you are.
Yeah, I am actually one. So why don't you have a discussion with me about what it is about? This might be a good opportunity. I mean, Max isn't here to talk for himself, so but you guys are contributors to the community, and obviously you both. I've interacted with both of you independent of this, but it's the first time I've been in a hangout with you, and I feel like we've had respectful interactions, and I would hope that I've never made you feel anything but respected. I can joke around, so sometimes I can be carried away.
You're one of the more you're one of the more sober-minded ones.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you.
For an anti-theist.
For an anti-theist.
Yeah.
So let's maybe talk a little bit about exactly what it is about anti-theism that because you guys speak a lot in broad strokes over there. So people kind of all get painted with the same brush. And I firmly believe, and this is one of the reasons that you never hear me speak about a group of people. I judge people on their individual merits and not by their group affiliations. So let's have it.
Theists get painted with the same brush.
Okay. So the group that I'm affiliated with, I mean, I would count them more so as friends. I don't feel like they make broad claims about Christians or Muslims or people who are Jewish. They do analyze and at some point sometimes attack ideas that are affiliated with those groups, but they don't make any broad assessments or proclamations about the people who are members of that group. And I would like to think that I don't as well, because it's never a beneficial thing to do. And I think that the counter is true as well. I think, you can have respectful dialogue about ideas where people differ without labels, without making proclamations about, any group of people based on their affiliations with that group. But that being said, perhaps there's some arguments that have merit surrounding your issues with people who identify as anti-theists, and perhaps we could have a dialogue right now that maybe either puts some of those to rest or clarifies the position a little bit better. Maybe that's a productive way to have this dialogue. Would you like to do that? Is that okay? Sure. So why don't you just let me know exactly what the issue is, and maybe I can help to quell some of the concerns.
For the most part, this whole new atheist movement that started more than a decade or more.
Okay.
The whole movement has become pretty toxic. It's just the hero worship, the rabid defense over every stupid, mean-spirited thing their thought leaders say, and the general groupthink. It's all semi-religious, if you ask me.
Okay. So,
and I mean, if I can jump in with it, I mean, it's fine. But what got me into the anti-theist, like going against them, is mainly from like a more of a intellectual standpoint, where I got into it. I was a fan of some popular YouTube atheist for a long time, and I just, I started questioning some of the information that they were giving, because some of the information that they were giving on religion, and personally, I'm not a religious man. I'm not really much of a religious man myself.
Okay.
But I'm a guy that I kind of respect the truth, and I have many friends who are atheist, pagan, Muslim, Jewish, Christian, whatever you can name. I'm pretty much friends with someone that's of those groups.
Sure.
And when I see them, like I see atheists, like they make like you'll see like the guys like Cult of Dusty, or you'll see TJ Kirk or someone like them, where they'll apply a certain like rhetoric, you could say, to make religion, like they tend to like, I'm trying to like make things more hyperbolic and over exaggerate, and they do so in a way that, since they have a large fan base, like people, like you can't say they're directly responsible for it, but the way their abrasive approach goes, they end up causing a bunch of people to follow them, and which triggers back onto the religious community. And some of their objections to religion have no scholarship to them.
Okay. You know they are just entertainers on YouTube, right? Though, I mean, they're not like scholarly people. They're entertainers. They're
Well, I get, and like, here's the thing: if they painted themselves as more of that, then I wouldn't have as much of a problem with it. But when you have people like, they have reason rallies, they have,
you don't like reason.
I like the reason, but I'm saying,
it's
like,
not a reason rally.
They have all these things.
Why not just call it anti-theist rally? It's what it is.
The thing is like what they do is when they have these movements, they, it's kind of like a joke, and like Shannon may know, it's like the Dunning-Kruger effect.
I know what the Dunning-Kruger effect is. Yeah.
we do know what that is. Yes, unfortunately.
So like that's a little joke in our community where we see like atheists. We're saying we follow logic, reason, and a lot of these people, some of these people don't even have a high school diploma, and they're going around saying this and basically regurgitating the same thing that Richard Dawkins or Christopher Hitchens said in some interview, and using it to attack religious people online.
Okay, I can see how that would be fair. So I can understand what you're saying. So essentially what you're saying is there's
some fedora tipper named Reese C who has some pretty nice things to say about me.
Oh,
as I look dumber than I sound, or
well, ignore the chat. Interact with us.
Focus on Shannon. Focus on Shannon. Don't look too deep into her eyes.
I try to engage with the people that I'm talking with. So do your best to ignore the chat or engage with them in the chat so that we can continue on a productive discussion here, if that's okay. Right. So I can hear what you're saying. What you're saying is that, there's some prominent people, and those prominent people have garnered a following, and because they've garnered a following, and those people have somewhat, to a certain degree, adopted their attitudes or their demeanor, that sort of spread a bit of a culture of where you felt as theists that you were being, either berated or degraded, and that's not a good feeling. And this is sort of a counterpoint to that. Now, I can understand that. I know I don't know TJ Kirk, and I haven't watched him, so I don't want to speak about him. But but Steve says he's an entertainer. There are people in any group. I've come up against. I've been called no better than a Nazi or a KKK member.
I've been called atheist, and I'm not even that. I don't.
Right. So
I've been called an evangelical Christian.
Yeah,
I've been called an evangelical Christian. So if any of my friends heard that, they would laugh.
Oh, gracious. Well, these things are going to happen.
I get accused of being that also, even though I'm a secular theist.
Oh my gracious. Okay. Well, you see, there's misconceptions everywhere, and especially when you're on we're in sort of a microcosm of society right now. The people that you're going to see who are on social media doing these sorts of things are doing so behind a shroud of anonymity that allows them to not necessarily act like themselves, but to act out. And some people do it just for, you know, the lulls or whatever. And those people who are on YouTube are entertainers. They're coming to the forefront to try to garner an audience. So they're going to be sensationalistic. Now, perhaps you can say the same about Max. Perhaps that's a portion of his tactic. I don't know if it is or if it isn't.
It is. Like, it's
it is?
Push.
Okay. Well,
like, you think Max is mean. That's only a fraction of what theists have been getting for the past decade.
Well, I believe that atheists and anti-theists do get it too, and I can understand why he's being a counterpoint. But my question would be, how productive is that? If you're meeting what you perceive as persecution with persecution in kind, all you're doing is giving cause for more significant measures of polarization between two communities, while also calling for, you know, rationality. I try, and it's not difficult. It's difficult sometimes because I'm human, and you know, I've been attacked. I try as best I can to be an example that, you know, the things that are being said about me and the group members that I'm affiliated with aren't true. And being reactionary is a good way to perpetuate this sort of thing. So where do you feel like you fall in that via your affiliation? I mean, do you feel like it's beneficial? Do you feel like these sorts of tactics are adding to the conversation? Do you feel like this is solving anything at all? Or do you feel like perhaps it's making things worse between two groups where perhaps things could be made better?
I think the way he sees it, that the more he does it, the more, like a normal atheist would say, will speak up against it and say something's wrong here.
Okay.
You know,
okay.
With
I'm not sure that, but he makes broad proclamations about atheists. So that's difficult for me to understand.
Because including all atheists, no matter what they're
right. So he's saying atheists are
capital A atheists. Those who go out of their way to make it their identity.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
People list atheists in their title or godless in their title, those kind of things.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Well,
or skeptic.
Godless cranium. Damn you all to hell, godless cranium.
Sure, but I mean,
godless cranium rock.
I love Godless Cranium.
And he's
I do not like Godless Cranium. I mean, he's nice.
That guy's the worst. Don't encourage him.
Yeah, dick Godless Cranium.
Don't encourage him.
Yeah, I mean, not like, you know, like I said, I have multiple friends of, like, you know, atheists and stuff, and we do get along a lot of things. And, you know, even some of them will say, yeah, there's a lot of idiot atheists on there that they're just, they're more or less just parroting like stuff that they've heard, and it gets on you because you hear the same responses day after day.
That's how you it's
actually got.
Go ahead.
It's actually gotten to such a point, it's gotten to such the point where I actually have a copy-pasted list of answers on my computer.
No, I get there's a lot of basal arguments out there, but I mean, if somebody does identify with atheism and that's their, you know, thing they want to promote, what is wrong with that? How is that any different than a theist saying, "Hey, I identify as a Christian and I want to promote Christianity"? How is that any different as far as people's?
Well, what purpose does promoting atheism serve?
Because they don't believe
it promotes thinking.
Yeah, they don't believe that religion has any beneficial things to society, or that they want
atheism. It's just like a belief, right?
Hang on. There's a lot of things that why people do things. Obviously, you know, some atheists just all they want is separation of church and state. They don't care whatever you believe. Some people think religion's harmful. Some people think, hey, we are in a naturalistic universe, and therefore, you know, believing in God doesn't serve any purpose. And there's a lot of issues that come with that. There's a lot of different reasons why people do things, but to say that because somebody identifies with atheism, that's somehow bad, that to me seems
disingenuous, pretty much.
Yeah, it seems like a little bit of hypocrisy too, because a lot of theists do, and You know, we don't go around saying, hey, you know, this person identifies as theist, so therefore, you know, we automatically don't like him or something. But I see that with the atheist side. Somebody has atheist in their name or something like that. Oh, they must be a harmful society. They must be evil. They must be eating babies. It's weird.
We don't judge every Christian for the actions of G-Man. I mean,
exactly.
Right.
Not everybody's Ken Ham.
I know. I mean, well, Ken, like I'll say, Ken Ham's an idiot.
Yeah, you sure.
He's an idiot.
Mhm.
I mean, I've even had some of my most like Christian friends like will say, "Yeah, don't watch him. He's an idiot."
Right.
So, but you guys agree that science is good, right? I mean, you guys agree that man walk with dinosaurs is probably pretty fucking stupid, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember this one joke is like, I believe it's Lewis. I mean, I can't remember what his name is. Like, he's a comedian. He says basically,
Lewis Black.
Yeah, Louis C.K. He says, or Louis Black. Louis Black. That's what his name is. He says, people like younger creationists are the people that watch the Flintstones and think it's a documentary.
Right.
Right.
So I have a question for the two of. Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to step on you while you were talking. I thought that you were done. Please go ahead.
Well, I mean, you can ask me anyway.
Sure. So it seems that you have an issue with people who make a public proclamation that they're an atheist or an anti-theist and engage in discussions. So do you not feel that we have the right to seek out others who are like-minded and form communities and share ideas and discuss those ideas in public?
I see very little ideas other than religious people are stupid. We need to get rid of them.
Have you ever heard something like that from me? And I don't.
Not from you, Shannon. This isn't about you.
Can we ask though who? And I hate I'm calling people out, but I know a lot of people in this community. A lot, obviously. I don't really see anybody taking that approach.
Like Paul doesn't.
Well, I mean, another thing is like
doesn't, Cosmic Skeptic doesn't, Godless Engineer doesn't.
Cosmic Skeptic or Rachel Oates or
Godless Uranium, Rachel Oates.
Well, Rachel is evil.
Prophet of Zod.
So
I mean, I could continue to list people off. Anti-Ordinary. I could keep going. Like Staggers and Jags. There's a lot of
Prophet of Zod.
Yeah, I mentioned Prophet of Zod, who's fantastic.
Did you mention Godless Iowan?
Yeah, Godless Iowan is great as well. Johnny Drive-By is fantastic. Let's see. Oh, the new guy. Everybody should go to subscribe to this guy, Brilliant Doubt. He's great.
Yes.
He's brand new. I mean, all of these people are dialogue promoters. I mean,
for every one of those, there's 10 more TJ Kirks and Dusties and
wait a minute, TJ Kirk.
So why attack us all?
But wait a minute, they're not even part of our really. They're not part of our little microcosm. We don't hang out with TJ Kirk, and I'm not a big fan of Dusty. I don't know anybody that really is anymore. I mean, he's just somebody that used to be kind of popular.
Or Steve Shives.
Everybody hates Steve Shives. We're all blocked.
Yeah, no one don't even like Steve Shives. So.
Yeah, I mean, so this is what I'm saying. You keep bringing up all these people that are not even related to any of us, and yet looping us all together into this melting pot of.
But we're attacked specifically.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, look at. I got called out.
Wait,
hang on. I got called out for doxing Dean, harassing him, and harassing his kids. He called me out for that, and I didn't even know he had children. So how is that possible? I was like, "What did Dean reproduce? This is news to me." But he wrote a whole blog on that. Like he lumped me in as he even said I was like the biggest atheist on YouTube. I'm like, I'm not an atheist. So how does that even work, Dean? This is what I'm saying. He throws everybody together, and I don't understand it.
I mean, more or less, like I can't say what Dean's thinking. I can't speak for him. So I mean, I always heard that you were an agnostic. So I mean,
correct.
I mean, and you seem like, from what I have seen from your discussions, like you seem all right.
I'm all right. I'm just all right. It's cool. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. So I mean, but another thing that really gets me about the atheist community, when you really get down to it, now again, not all atheists, but it's become to such a significant, like me and White Injun, we both are history buffs. We both like history.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been noticing like a bit of a movement, like with the atheists, where they just spread bad history, and it all serves to make religion seem like, makes religion seem like worse, and they completely misrepresent history in order to serve like an anti-theist bias.
Well, that's when you will, kind of go up to them and sit down with them and try to strike up a dialogue instead of, kind of.
I mean, it's gotten to such a bad point that even like an atheist historian like Tim O'Neill has to start an entire website where he has to point out each and every single bad atheist argument, like from history.
Well, but that's what people do. There's bad arguments go all around. I'll call out a bad argument, whether it be an atheist or theist. A bad argument is a bad argument. So I think everybody in this panel that I can testify to will do the same.
Yeah.
I know Frankie will, and I definitely know Shannon will. If she thinks it's a bad argument, she'll say it's a bad argument. Let me show you why.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, can I give you an example of like a typical bad history thing?
Sure.
Just so you know, I'm not making anything up. I'll provide you like with an example of like a bad history argument that you hear from the atheist community a lot.
Sure.
Okay.
The Dark Age myth. Like, the Dark Age is essentially this idea that at one point, like, there was no science, like there was a great prosperous scientific movement, and Christianity just kind of swooped in and shut that all down. And it wasn't until hundreds of years later that the rise of the Enlightenment and the intellectual atheists came, and they swooped in and they made everything, the science, better.
I've never heard that.
Yeah, I've never heard that either.
I'm probably bastardizing like how it's worded.
You let me know who it is. I'll put him on the show, and we'll have some fun with him.
That's right.
I mean, White Injun might be able to explain it a little bit more for me, because he's more into that circle than I am.
So you're
like that.
Okay.
What were you saying?
I was just gonna say. I mean, that is a bad argument. I'm not a history buff by any stretch of the imagination.
Like, but, for 1,000 years of the Dark Ages, the big bad church oppressed everybody, and life sucked generally.
Well, I mean, obviously, the Dark Ages was the Roman Empire was heading downhill that entire time.
Yeah,
right?
but there was no Dark Ages. It was just
dark meant there was no progression. There was no there's no more ingenuity. There's no more invention. It was very stagnated for a long time.
Doubt if they're like, well, the whole idea of the Dark Ages comes from our lack of documentation on that time frame. I don't think that's what it referred to. No, I think they referred to the fact that wasn't much intellectual progress. By the way, Jade, do you want to do a mic check real quick? Oh, there was plenty of like.
Oh yeah, hi.
That's the guys, big bad Christian calls it, and like I keep asking him. So the general collapse of the Roman Empire, like the invasions of the Goths, the barbarians, and the rampage of Attila the Hun had nothing to do with that.
But I don't know enough about history to speak one way.
Yeah, I'm not sure how that really is an argument.
Not my wheelhouse.
Yeah, I don't know what the atheist argument is on that.
I'm not one of those atheists. That's
the argument is they want to make
life was glorious, and the big bad Christians ruined everything, or something.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah, I can hear you.
I'm not roboting. Okay, thank you.
No. You seem just fine. So so that's something that's annoying. For sure, really, but I still don't understand the vitriol.
Yeah, how does that translate into like the hatred people seem to have?
Because the whole like it's supposed to the whole they want to make it seem like Christianity is like this big oppressing force that's always just sort of oppressed everybody from the beginning of time, and they do that in order to serve the anti-theist bias, because of course if Christianity or any religion was completely oppressive for a whole period, long thousands of years time and stuff, that really gives your argument, your anti-theism, merit.
Right.
I think most atheists would recognize that some of the greatest achievements have been with people that were theologians. I mean, back then, the church and the educational facilities were intertwined. I mean, you wanted a good education, you got it through some kind of university that was associated with a theological approach, a Catholic thing, or Franciscan, or something along those lines, that you learned an education in both science and theology, because they were so mixed together back then.
But you're in a discussion right now with atheists who are acknowledging that.
Yeah, I don't know what.
I'm talking about most of the ideologues in general will just deny that and say, well, their belief in God
Well, they
had
don't
nothing
deal
to
with
do
those
with it.
ideologues. I don't know who the ideologues are. I know there's a couple of them out there. I mean, Call of Dusty might be one of them, but I don't associate with him. I don't know how that's lumped to us.
That's what the red pill team fights against.
Well, you got about
Propaganda.
a chat room with a lot of atheists that kind of agree with us in here that they want to know who said it and why would they say it. I know Paula G is in here.
Oh,
I know,
that guy.
like,
Yeah, Paul G is the worst.
Yeah,
Oh.
guy.
he said, "Who in the world has said that?" So instead of kind of like lumping us all into this because one person has messed up history, just
I mean,
call out that one person,
Talk
not the
to-
whole.
I mean, no, I mean,
And
here's the
make
thing.
allies.
I'm a part of. No, I mean, here's the thing. I'm a part of atheist groups like Atheist Republic and stuff. And
Oh gosh,
they
does Max know that?
post.
He doesn't like that.
No, I mean,
Might be
so I
shunned.
mean, I'm a part of these public, and every now and then they'll post something about Christian history or something, and it'll be just completely wrong. Like I recently on our Facebook page, I had posted like a screenshot of they did this whole thing about this girl named Hypatia, or White Injun might know how to say it better.
It was of Greece.
Where basically they call her like a martyr for science. They tend to try to make it seem like she was an atheist who was murdered for her, her science and stuff, and that the big bad Christians killed her before it. When you look at the history, here's what's funny. I actually pointed out to them that the person that first started that whole trend wasn't even a historian, and he was a noted atheist who had a grudge against his Christianity, and that's where it kind of came from. And it's sort of just, they pushed it on Atheist Republic about that.
Right.
And basically, when you look in the history, like all the Christians back then actually loved her. And she wasn't killed for her science. She was killed because she got involved with politics.
You do realize you're going back to like the 3rd and 4th century here. I mean, I'm not seeing how that translates to us with what happened with Hypatia.
Right. And misrepresentation of history isn't cause for, hatred and vitriol. And I still don't understand exactly what it is about anti-theists in particular. And I'd love to explore that more, like getting off the history. Not that I don't believe
to make religion in general look bad.
So you think that anti-theists are attempting to make religion in general look bad?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's more or less like they want a narrative, they want a story that and they, in order to have said story, sometimes like they want to embellish that side, look better. And if I always I pointed out like this, if they start off with like a presupposition, like they'll say, well, Christian or something like that. And they'll start off with that presupposition and they'll say, well, now that we know that, what facts best conform? Does it matter if they're true or not? Does it matter, if is it reliable facts? No, as long as it conforms to that presupposition, they go for it.
I don't see that. I mean, maybe you can kind of point out where that happens, because we all have presuppositions, but I don't see atheists looking at religion presuppositionally. I see them looking at it as a conclusion that they don't either like religion, or they don't believe in God, or they believe God doesn't exist. But those are conclusions. Those are not presuppositions.
Right. And I mean, if you wanted to talk to an anti-theist directly rather than talking about ones that you've seen, I'm right here. You can ask me questions. I'd be happy to answer them.
You're a rare exception of a good anti-theist.
I don't know that I am, though, because I affiliate with a great deal of them, and they seem like good people.
I mean, I can get one bad person with history. I mean, I know I beat history like a dead drum, but I mean, if you want an example of someone that does kind of push bad history, I would say Aaron Raw is one of them.
I like Aaron
and Carrier.
I mean, he's a good here's the thing. I mean, no disrespect. Like for a science video, I would go directly to Aaron Raw because he's awesome at that.
Okay.
But when he steps out of his field of science, he just
I don't think anybody disagrees with you that. I know Aaron really well. I mean, he's on my channel all the time. We have we have vitriolic discussions sometimes that we don't agree with each other on. I think he's really bad at philosophy. I think he would agree with that. I don't agree with his positions on atheism. We get into our discussions about this. But he's great when it comes to the sciences. But
yeah, I know. I mean, no one's going to doubt that.
Together, like, oh, if you're an atheist or agnostic or skeptic, you've got to walk lock, stock, and barrel. With King Crocoduck. God forbid if you disagree with them, or Aaron Ra. No, we disagree with these people all the time. That's what makes the community the community.
Oh God, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Like, look at me and Friended. Me and Friended box all the time.
Yeah, Friended forever. Look at him. I mean, the guy's smart as shit. I don't particularly agree with half the stuff he says, but the guy's smart.
Oh yeah, he drives me absolutely bananas a lot of the time. But he and I get along quite well. We can disagree on a point, and then and jab at each other, and walk away and be fine. Like, you won't see either one of us going on a live stream, losing our mind, saying things like that. I wouldn't say something like, he's not qualified to read science. He's too nice to be trusted. He uses his looks so that he can get sway with nothing of substance to say. He should be shunned.
Yeah,
he is a vitriolic ideologue. These are all things that have been said about me in the past 24 hours, and we can add those to
vitriolic.
Oh, well, thanks. We can add that to, I'm no better than a Nazi. I'm no better than a KKK member. I'm a sad little girl and I need to go away.
It's because you said Essence of Sophistry was a nice person.
I said Essence of Thought was a nice guy. And that I said Essence of Thought was a nice guy.
He is not nice.
Met with
he's a propagandist.
He's a propagandist. Okay, irrelevant. That's irrelevant. It was you have to admit that what I was met with was disproportionate from me just saying that somebody was a nice guy. That does not call for somebody to say that I'm no better than a Nazi KKK member and I'm a sad little girl and I need to get out of his face and never speak to him again.
He shouldn't have said that.
Absolutely.
I mean, and I got on.
That's the type of thing that is not productive. Because of that interaction, I was deterred from engaging in further productive dialogue with him because I was afraid it would degrade into that, and that's not a good way to carry on conversations. And we had relatively productive discussions up until that point, and that is my point. All of the things that you have said may be true, but carrying on in this fashion solves and contributes to nothing. Am I wrong?
No.
What is the end game? What is your ultimate goal? What in the ideal world, not referencing the reasons why you're doing it, in the ideal world, what does the result of these types of actions look like to you?
Well, like,
they can see what they're doing to us.
I mean, I can't, speak. Like I said, I can't speak for Max and what Max's goals are. We, even though we're a group of people, I mean, it's like with atheists, like they're a group of people, but they have different goals that they might want to accomplish within the group. Now,
and how
I can
is
say what
engaging in this fashion accomplishing goals? If the goal is for us to feel the way that you feel, or realize what we're doing to you, what does that accomplish? That's the eye for an eye strategy.
Well,
you made me mad, so I'm going to make you mad. That's the strategy.
Well,
that's what people want to have accomplished out of this. I do so really honestly hope that this is the last discussion I have about it, because I feel like it's an absolute, utter, and total dead end. So to continue having hangouts back and forth so that we can have conversation about who offended who and why without ever discussing ideas, just talking about each other back and forth until the end of time, is not how I'm going to choose to spend the rest of my time, because I would rather be engaging in dialogues with people about things that may actually have an effect on change and are respectful and fruitful. And this is not.
Yeah, I think her point is spot on. I mean, we spend 10 times the amount of effort wasted on things like straw mans and things of like what the hell is like people like Dean talking about. It has nothing to do with any kind of reality, and so I don't waste much time with it. I mean, the only reason I did the other day is Crocoduck had messaged me and said, "Steve, can we have a hangout on this and talk? I want to address some things." I said, "Sure," but other than that, I don't bother. I didn't even respond when Dean had his whole blog about me. You know, that I was a doxer and a harasser. I didn't make a video about it. I didn't have a back and forth. That's what he wants to have, right? I'm not interested in that because it's completely wasting my time to argue against things that fractally wrong. You know, and so what's the advantage he has by calling Shannon comparative to Nazis or saying she's not qualified to do science and read, you know, publications? I assure you she is. That's what she does for a lot of people. She is one of the few people, her and Jade is very good at too, can read things and comprehend them. And for them to say that they can't, like Shannon's, you know, not competent to do that, or anybody else that has an education, I find to be very disingenuous because let's be honest, Dean doesn't know what the hell he's talking about in science or philosophy. I have never met one person as an education that's ever said he has any idea what he's talking about. Not one. And if there is one out there, I'd love to meet them. So people don't go to Dean for this stuff. They don't say, Dean, can you read this paper and explain to me what it is, or see if the methodology that they done was correct, that the approach they took. That's what Shannon does. She's competent to do that. She's a good little reviewer for that. So why does Dean think that insulting her, diminishing her capabilities somehow makes him better what he thinks he does? Because he's not competent. His science is wretched. You guys know this. Come on, let's be honest. Yeah. He doesn't understand the topics, and yet he is downgrading everybody else who does. And that's what I think, personally, I have an issue with.
Like I said, like I said, I can't really speak for Max because I'm not him. But I mean, I don't think Max is like ever came across like where he says he is a scientist, and he's often said he
says he knows science. He said the other day, I'm scientifically literate, and I beg to differ. I don't think he is. I'm sorry, I just don't.
I disagree with some of, like, in the recent chat we had, I believe it was yesterday, Injun, that, you know, yeah. I told him, like, you know, I disagreed with him, like, on, you know, I said he kind of over-exaggerates to make a point. And I do kind of see where Shannon's coming from, where, you know, it's not, like, being productive in some way. But I think what, you know, Max's whole goal is with it, like, I don't know, I'm not his mind, so I don't know exactly his goal with it. But I think it's more or less where he wants to start, like, you know, more of a conversation with it, but at the same time, he wants to more or less show, like, you know, this is what they, he's been receiving, and he wants to, you know, he's hoping sort of if atheists see him do that, they'll say, and he says, so maybe, you know, this is something we need to work on. Now, I don't necessarily agree completely with that, because I believe, in my experience, people don't like to be criticized, even if it's legitimate.
I welcome legitimate criticism, because that's how you better yourself as a person.
Well, I mean, yeah, I know. I'm just saying, like, in general, people hate being proven wrong unless, you know, it's clear in your face.
Oh, I didn't say I liked it.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying, like,
there's criticism, then there's mockery and shit talking.
I agree.
I mean, we don't get into the shit talking on this side of the fence. There are shit talking out there, and there, you know, if you want shit talking, go watch Talking Shit Tuesday. 150 people watch, you know, JD Kane, and he does an awesome job at it. I mean, that's his shtick. He's got it down to an art form. But
like, when you see someone,
I'm not into that.
Yep. When you see someone yell out Bronze Age, sheep herder, sky daddy,
I fight against that stuff, though. I'm on board with you on that, though. I don't think it's productive for people to talk about sky daddies. I find it to be kind of offensive, and it doesn't make sense to me. I'm on board with that.
It's not what I believe. That's not my guy.
Right, but do you understand that when Dean lumps everybody together, he's saying that everybody that says, "Oh, you have a mythological sky daddy that you pray to," blah blah blah. I don't find that to be productive, and so I don't want to be lumped into that kind of skeptic or that kind of agnostic or atheist. Because I argue against that as well. I don't think it's productive conversation. It's hyperbolic and it's inflammatory.
I know. I mean, you know, I can't say, you know, like I said, I just recently I believe I watched some Inspiring Philosophy, and I've seen like couple of debates, and I watched some of your videos coming into this. So I can't, I have limited knowledge, so I can't say one way or another some things.
Right. Why do you participate is my question, though. I understand, like, you see these things and you feel, and I'm not, dissuading or limiting the merit of what you perceive as persecution, because nobody should. Now, I don't ever want anybody to feel persecuted. And if you felt like you've ever experienced that on an individual level, please let me know. I'd be the first person to defend you. And I, in fact, have defended Max on multiple occasions. I tracked down the person who blocked him on Twitter and had an altercation with him. And even though I was accused of being the reason that he was blocked on Twitter, right? Like, so I defended his right to free speech. I did do that. So I mean, I just don't understand. But I'm becoming dissuaded because I feel like my attempts at positive, respectful, productive dialogue are met with utter, complete, total disrespect, misrepresentation, and anger, rage, and just like it's bananas to me. I unsubscribed after that interaction regarding Essence of Thought, and didn't think of it again. Really, it was just happily disconnected from it until King Crocoduck had his engagement with Max, and I went into the after show to have a chat with King Crocoduck regarding, and the after show was on the Geek Room, and it was a really good dialogue. We actually didn't talk about Max much or at all. We talked a lot about science, about the papers that were attached to Inspiring Philosophy's videos and how we had both read them and compared them with one another. Neither one of us said anything vitriolic or anything negative about Christians or Christianity or religion in general. We just had a really decent and intriguing conversation about our understanding of and interest in the science that these papers laid out. And that was met with just unnecessary, counterproductive, disproportionate rage.
I mean, it's just I don't really approve of his rants either. I really don't. That's why I'm not a member of the Red Pill team, because that in-your-face approach is not really me. But the way I see it, no, the way he said it is that it was supposed to be a discussion, but then it turned into a debate unknown to him.
Well,
and
no, was not it? No, hang on. I have to qualify this. There was never a debate, and the only thing that took it downhill was when Dean threw out the first "fuck you." That changed the whole tone of the conversation. So it had nothing to do with anybody else. People were having, before we went on air, Dean even said, "Hey, I know a lot of us have had issues in the past. Let's forget about that. Have a good time." We're like, "Yeah, great. That's what we want. Let's do it. That's what we go for." And it's right out of the gate, he's already slamming on scientists and saying scientists are not real scientists. How many times he said P.Z. Myers isn't qualified to talk about biology? It's like, are you fucking kidding me? That's the kind of narrative that he's out of the gate doing, right? And then he's just like, well, fuck you then. And it's just like that whole conversation changes that approach, because then people are going to start getting a little more defensive, right? So he has no one to blame on that but himself. But there was never any intent to have a debate. It was, okay, let's get together and have a discussion like we're doing now, right? That's what we're doing. We're like people hanging out, different mindsets, different positions, talking. We can do that.
And we'll probably all leave without our minds changed, but we'll at least leave knowing that we respected each other. And I mean, Max goes into conversations, and when he goes into conversations, he goes into them, I believe, with the best of intentions in his mind, but he is curt, gruff, antagonistic, and has a short fuse. So that escalates things. And then once they escalate, it's anybody's fault but his.
Yeah, and real quick, I mean, there's this narrative of this persecution porn stuff, this Christian persecution porn, and I kind of want Jade if she would chime in on this, because I think she has a unique perspective on it, as being from a Christian point of view, if she's there. Jade, are you there?
You're muted, Jade.
You're muted, Jade.
Yeah, I had to unmute myself.
Okay,
yes,
there you go.
yes.
Yeah, can you kind of like, because you know exactly how we feel about that. You know that I can't stand persecution porn, and I can't stand persecution of Christians. I don't allow for it on my channel. And yet people say, oh, you know, Steve's Hangouts, so a bunch of atheists getting together bashing on Christians, which has never happened.
Steve is biased.
I know. Look at your look at your comments.
Oh, I get that. Yeah, no, I get that. Yeah, no, I get that. I actually, literally, people leave comments. Oh, it's just an atheist circle jerk bashing on Christians. I'm like, what the fuck did you just watch? Because it's obvious you didn't watch the video, because that's not in there.
No, not in the video.
Go ahead.
Yeah, well, anyone can post in the comments, and there's a guy right now in the comments being very anti-Catholic. So there's a wide range of people who are in the comments. And just for the record, I'm a Roman Catholic, and I'm often what. Yeah.
I was going to say, just for the record, the Christians outnumber the atheists and agnostics.
Yeah, I'm a minority in the room here. I'm an agnostic, so I'm like the white sheep right now, or black sheep, I guess.
I know. Yeah. So, so anybody can post in the live chat, and that doesn't mean that the people who are in the Hangout agree with what's going on in the live chat. It's just a free and open forum, and I know that Steve, like a lot of other people, doesn't like to censor the live chat. I don't either. The only time it's done is if someone's saying something really, really racist or attacking someone or something
it
really
takes
wild.
A lot.
Yeah, and occasionally, yeah, we do have, we do have people in the live chat who, just are trolling. They'll come in with a fake account just to be awful. But
a lot of them will just talk shit about us no matter what we say.
Yeah.
Well, that's true. That's true.
Sure.
And so, but I'm frequently in Hangouts with Steve and with other atheists, with atheists and others in the community. Steve has had Hangouts besides this one, where there are a majority of theists or a majority of Christians in the actual Hangout. And ironically, there was one where a couple of people were in the live chat saying, "Oh, you're just a bunch of atheists bashing on Christians," and there were like, and there were mostly theists in there that day, and including Ocean, right, who is a pagan, but he's a theist.
He believes in all the gods.
I know.
That's too many to think.
You can't get more deep.
And that was pretty funny to watch people in the live chat say that a Hangout that is mostly theist and I think even mostly Christian were and they're bashing on Christians when that subject didn't even come up. It was just this perceived notion that Steve is an atheist, which he isn't, and because Steve is an atheist, that everything he does must be bashing on Christians. He's an agnostic, yes. So, but there is this thing called persecution porn, and we have certain people here in the great debate community, using that term rather loosely at the time, not in the great debate community, the community on G+, but the wider community, who just love posting about how they're terribly mistreated by atheists, or terribly mistreated, or how Christians are being so horribly treated in society, and how Christians are mistreated in academia, and they don't get jobs because they're Christians, and it's bullshit. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't some people who are discriminated against, but you know what? There are some people who are discriminated against because they're atheists. Interestingly enough, some of the same people who love indulging in persecution porn, in other words, saying that they and other Christians are being persecuted, are the same people that think that atheists shouldn't be allowed to vote, or atheists shouldn't be allowed to hold office. So
here in South Carolina,
there are always a few
and hold office. It's actually in our books.
Yeah.
You move to China, you'll see it's the other way around.
That's
China.
China.
This isn't
We're talking
China.
about here.
Yeah.
I know.
That's not just moving the goalposts. That's leaving the stadium and flying across the world. Okay. So no, this isn't China. And as again, I'm saying, certainly you can always point to people who are being abusive. And your point about some anti-theists being abusive, yeah, I've seen it. I've seen people say stuff, and I just ignore it, because as far as I'm concerned, the minute they come up with Sky Daddy, they're just showing how juvenile they are. Wow, you can't come up with something better than that. I mean, seriously, you know, I've heard that for many years. That big deal. It doesn't prove anything. It doesn't get us anywhere in a conversation. You're just being very, very
It's
juvenile.
lowbrow.
And if
It's
that
very
makes you
lowbrow.
happy,
Yeah.
right. And yes, we do have people who put up things because they delight in bashing Christians. Sometimes it can be to one's advantage, or one learns, because a few years ago, Richard Dawkins posted a meme that was popular. It went away and came back, went away and came back. And it was allegedly a quote by a St. Augustine. It said something about how women should not be educated because they arouse passions in men, something like that. Well, the quote was a fake. And somebody pointed out to him, he took it down. But I can just imagine his glee and, oh, look, we're poking at Christians again. Because everyone I saw who posted that, and I've seen it posted on and off for a couple of years, haven't seen it for a while. But, you know, again, oh, look, we're poking at Christians because a guy who lived, 1,500 years ago said this, except he didn't say it. And I know he didn't say it because guess who went through everything that St. Augustine wrote, looking for anything remotely close to that quote. And I can prove that I did that too, because I know what people are here on Improve. I thought about making a video about it that would bore the hell out of everybody. I went through everything he wrote in English and in Latin and searched for those terms. And you know what I found out? I found out that St. Augustine actually liked educated women. But the point is, yeah, there are people who are going to do stuff like that, and they're just jerks. So what? And sometimes they're being funny. You kind of have to, you know, just wait a second to see if they're just being funny. They're trying to be funny. You know, they might just be repeating something they've heard because they're just poking you a little bit, you know. But yeah, there are some awful people out there. But trust me, as a Roman Catholic, I can tell you there are some awful Christians out there. I can't tell you the number of times I've been told I'm not a Christian. And all the horrible things the Catholic Church has done. Apparently, these people have never heard of, Cromwell, for one. Yeah.
You got nasty people on all sides.
Right.
Yeah, there are. And I know that, but I'm not going to, the people who tend to attack Catholics are the fundamentalist evangelical types. But I'm certainly not going to assume that all fundamentalist evangelicals are horrible, nasty people, because some of them are. And most atheists I've come in contact with are really nice people, which is why I hang out with them. They also like dialogue, and they also like science, which is, you know, my thing. I love science. I also love history, and I wish people would talk about it more, but that's just the way it goes.
Yeah, it's kind of funny when people are saying to, you know, like, believers, shun the unbeliever, shun the atheist. And I'm thinking to myself, wouldn't you rather be a good representation of Christianity and be in the atheist, you know, community, showing what an honest, you know, Christian will be? And you don't have to believe them. You don't have to agree with the theology the Christian has, but at least they're upright people. That's what you look for. You say, look at like Wayne. Wayne's an upright guy, right? I mean, how can you not like Wayne? And so, you know, I would rather have Wayne and Jade come in as representations or representatives of Christianity, just like General Han Solo and a few other of them, than have somebody like Dean, who I just don't think embodies what I consider to be the Christian values, because he's just, everything he says is so antithesis to it. Wayne, you want to chime in on that? You've been waiting.
I have to go before Wayne. Wayne,
Okay.
it's nice to see you.
Wait, one second, Wayne. I promise it, Wayne. But Shannon, do you want to add anything before you leave? I mean, I think you said your piece so eloquently. I don't know where you can go from there, but
well, I want to say thanks to White Injun specifically, because I know that it can't be easy when you're in a room full of people that are, you know, rallying against somebody, to stand up and say, I think you're being unfair. And he did that for me, and he deserves credit for that, because that couldn't have been easy in that circumstance. So thank you. And you did as well, Brass. So thank you. I appreciate that. And
Ghost of Buckley, I think, has too.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I see him kind of like, I have great interactions with him.
Yeah.
So, and I hope that continues. And I hope that you can have an effective, a positive change, so that more people can adopt your attitude and have dialogues like this with us, instead of just degrading.
It's far more effective. And we have 130 plus people watching. Dean had a hang a little while ago. He had 8. So obviously, people much rather watch this kind of dialogue, and I much prefer this kind of dialogue. I don't know how you cannot.
It's nicer.
Right. Yeah, you can get somewhere with it, and I welcome you back if you want to talk again, or you know, tweet at me, or you know, whatever.
I don't have Twitter.
Keep talking. Oh, you need to get some Twitter, but yeah, you know, keep talking. I think that, you know, not to say that some of your points aren't fair. I mean, you know, I'm still going to walk away an anti-theist, but I think the sum of a person is. I know it's awful, right? I think the sum of a person isn't, you know, what happens to them. It's how they choose to deal with how they deal and react to those things when they happen. So think about the types of choices you're making when you're in a room with people who are making broad generalizations about a whole group and making assertions about an entire group of people. Think back to this. Think about the group of people that you're with right now who are a completely mixed bag, who have all had a respectful dialogue with you. And think about, you know, maybe how that stands diametrically opposed to what you're being told. I just hope that stays with you, and I appreciate you coming to talk to me. And Wayne, I wish I haven't talked to you before, Wayne. It's nice to meet you, even though we didn't.
Nice to meet you.
Maybe we can talk again. Good job on your chat the other night. Thank you very much, guys. I appreciate you having me, Steve, and I will see you guys later.
All right. Hi, Wayne. Now you want to add something?
So I couldn't really watch the entire debate in full. I was at work, but from what I saw, it wasn't as I wouldn't say the arguments that Dean threw out were pretty like bad, because I don't know much about philosophy, honestly. But his representation of the faith, it wasn't really good. He definitely needs temperance. He was arguing and, you know, cursing and all that stuff, and that's just he just should do better.
Even King Crocoduck said that he had someone come up to him and message him saying, you know, I apologized for the way the dean acted. But
yeah, it's unfortunate. I guess it goes to show that if you don't have good arguments, then you will get frustrated and you will start cursing and stuff like that. But he can always come back and he can have like another discussion with him or something like that. So maybe he can do that. But I doubt that he will, because I've heard these comments before from other people over the years. And so I don't think Dean will change anytime soon. So who knows?
Well, and what's worse is, I mean, King Crocoduck has, he has an education, right? I mean, he has something under his belt. He's working on his master's, and people do think that he knows what he's talking about. People that are in the fields, people that have higher educations than him, will look at King Crocoduck and go, yeah, if you want to know about quantum, ask King Crocoduck. And then you have, Dean kind of throwing shade on him, going, oh, hey, who was King Crocoduck to talk about science? Well, he's somebody who's gone to school to learn about science. He is in the scientific field. He's writing his thesis in a scientific thing. That I don't get when Dean tries to diminish the accomplishments of somebody by thinking that Dean understands topics he doesn't understand. I don't know what Dean's education is, but from I've seen, I wouldn't even put him at a high school level education yet. I just don't see him having the academic fortitude, the academic standing to tell people, oh, well, King Crocoduck doesn't know about quantum mechanics. Well, okay, what is your proficiency in quantum mechanics, Dean? Oh, PZ doesn't know about biology. What is your proficiency in biology, Dean? I don't understand why he does that. It does nothing but make him look petty.
I won't pretend to speak for him there.
Yeah, you don't have to. No, and I appreciate you guys coming in. I know you guys aren't really standing up for him. This is a dialogue about what, maybe interpreting what his reasoning is for this. But like I said, I don't see too many people with educations going, yeah, if you really want to learn about this topic, yeah, go talk to Dean. He'll explain to you, quantum chromodynamics, or he'll explain to you natural selection. I don't see that happening. I just don't. So, anyways, I don't know where you want to go with this. So it's up to you guys.
Inspiring philosophy and Johann and Raz are good.
Well, IP just messaged me a few minutes ago. Do you want me to invite him? Maybe he's not busy.
Sure, if you want.
Sure, go for it.
I like inspiring philosophy. Like I said, I don't particularly agree with some of his theological arguments, but the guy's smart. The guy's really freaking smart.
Awkward silence. Sorry.
And PC's welcome to join too. PC's always known he could join. He's just a busy guy, so I don't really just don't send him the link. But PC's always welcome to join. I had mentioned that. I really get bothered by that when even like younger creationists that have PhDs like Jason Lyle or those guys. I really can't stand when people degrade their knowledge level, right? Because I don't think Jason Lyle is an idiot. He's a fucking astrophysicist. He's a legit one. Do I think he's compartmentalized? Yes. Do I think that he places ideological religion ahead of the science? Yes. But to call him an idiot because he's a younger creationist, that might have some merit. But to say that he doesn't know astrophysics, that's a stupid, right? And that's what I see happening with Dean when he tells all these people that have an education, they don't know what they're talking about. Well, show us they don't know what they're talking about, because I guarantee you go head to head with them, they're going to rape you
with no lube,
it's dry,
raw.
No best name.
So it is frustrating, like it just really is. So I mean, I hope that's if anybody gets any takeaway from that, that should be the takeaway. That look at, I don't want to diss on Dean. This is nothing personal to him. I don't think he has that much against me per se. He seems to be all, throwing shade on Shannon. But, I don't see him having any qualifications to make the kind of statements he makes when he degrades Shannon for saying, telling her, "Oh, you're not competent, to review these papers."
Well, it doesn't really matter about the qualifications as much as it matters about the argument. If the argument is true, I mean, they can have the qualifications of a 3-year-old.
Yeah, no, Jade doesn't have a degree, but I tell you what, when people want to know something about a paper and research, they're going to go to Jade. I mean, she got that down. But see, they've earned that, right? They've earned that status in the community as a go-to person for certain topics. And I think that's disparaging to try to knock him down from that. I think it's unproductive, and I think people do notice, and that's why I think that he doesn't have that much of a following. So, but anyways, you guys want to add anything before we kind of take this off air? I think it's kind of gone long enough, and I don't want to go circular and drag it out. But I appreciate you guys coming in. I'm hoping that Dean has any takeaway from this is positive. This is not disparaging toward him. It's not trying to knock him down. I'm not going to have videos on this again. I know King Crocoduck doesn't really want to bother. I know Shannon doesn't want to bother. It's just
I never got to deal with this whole Crocoduck issue. He seems like a soft-spoken guy.
Crocoduck is awesome.
Yeah, he's pretty cool.
Yeah, he's really awesome, and the fact that he takes his time out to want to teach people things. I've had many off airs with King Crocoduck. We're just sitting there talking about cosmogony. It's fascinating. So
to you, no, I'm just kidding.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, of course. Well, that's why sometimes we'll have off-air hangouts, because I'm thinking, okay, nobody else is really going to be interested in this conversation, right? But disparage to him to say that, oh well, King Crocoduck shouldn't be listened to. That Dean's got to stop, because Dean doesn't realize that King Crocoduck's videos are played in classrooms. Seriously, he wasn't joking about that. I mean, they are used as reference for a very basic understanding of quantum mechanics at an entry level.
I think when I was teaching science, I think I played, was it his? No. It was rhetoric. I played some of his videos in my science class.
Yeah, well, see, I mean, so there are people that are respected enough where their videos are going to be played. I can't imagine any video Dean's ever had that's ever going to be played in a classroom, in an academic setting. Why would it?
Unless it's somehow not to add.
Yeah, maybe like a critical analysis. Let's tear apart this kind of stuff, because I find nothing but rhetoric and sophistry in those hangouts for the most part, and I don't really listen to them any longer. So,
well, it depends on the hangout, but you should see his interviews he had with various people, like Born and Painter and Sarah Salviander and them, Steve Turley.
And I'm sure, yeah, that might be true, right? I have no idea, but I think what happens is when he gets away from that and he gets into this whole all atheists are evil, and he starts being disparaging on a whole group and he's generalizing. That's the turnoff. That's when people stop.
Well, not all atheists. He's mentioned that there are good atheists out there, like Like he likes Coach Red Pill, and there's and I would also point out Friend of Forever and Computing Forever and Tree of Logic and Stefan Molyneux, Tim O'Neill.
Okay, but like I said, most of those people you just named, not really associate with a lot of the people around here. I mean, Friended does. I like Friended. But the other ones, not so much. I mean, but he seems to lump everybody together. Shannon has nothing to do with any of those people.
Shannon's one of the nicest atheists I've met. Just saying.
But I mean, has not he not only gone after Shannon, but gone after Apologia and gone after Godless Cranium, Godless Engineer. He's attacked all of them at least once somewhere along the line, has he not?
Well, he rubs elbows with Godless Cranium.
I think, yeah, but didn't that kind of go south too? I mean, he was all chummy with Shannon, but that seemed to go south. I don't know. Like I said, I hope I don't know if Dean watches this stuff, and I just hope that he has some kind of takeaway. It's just it's not productive anymore to have these types of discussions on people arguing things that are so generalized that you don't even know what their argument is any longer. And I don't know what Dean's argument is. I don't know what his reasoning is. I don't know why he thinks that all atheists are the same. I don't know what his passion against anti-theist is. I don't get it. I don't care if he's anti-theist or a theist, as long as they have something they want to say and they have an articulate way of doing it.
It's the mean-spirited anti-theists that make guys like Dean.
But those are so rare. That's like saying I'm going to hold like all Christians accountable for what Ken Ham says.
Ew.
Oh, don't even get me started on that piece of shit.
But that's the same mentality, though. I don't know too many vitriolic atheists. There are a few, and they're not in what our little microcosm is. I can name a couple of them that hate my guts, that I have not talked to in years. We have nothing to do with them, right? People like Down Corner or Outbound. I Am Outbound. Those guys are shunned because they're porn bombers. They're snipers. Nobody wants that crap around. So I think we're on the same side more than you think.
T.J. Kirk and Atheism is Unstoppable.
I'm not an AIU fan. T.J. Kirk, I think I like his solo videos. I'm not a big fan of the DP, right? You were asking me, I'm an agnostic theist. How am I an agnostic theist? I don't have a God belief. How can I be a theist?
Agnostic can range from a doubt-ridden believer to
I'm just agnostic, straight agnostic
to an atheist without overconfidence.
Yeah, I am a straight temporal agnostic. I'm not a theist. I'm not an atheist. And if people don't understand that by this point, it's nothing else I can do about it. They can go read epistemic books. They can go read some papers that I can send them. If they don't understand it, then they just. I know you're not. I wasted too much.
I know you're not convinced. You're not convinced by either side. You're the middleman, essentially.
Right.
What was
there's a lot more complicated to that. I mean, there's some really good epistemic papers out there that do talk about just suspension of belief and suspension of judgment in relation to non-belief, and what the differences are, and you have to actually suspend belief if you evaluate a proposition, and it's all brain states. I think Shannon would be fascinated about it, because if I'm thinking about a proposition, if I'm in the process of evaluating it, I haven't accepted, I haven't rejected, nor have I suspended judgment on it. So there are other positions out there.
Yeah, what's his face has a question.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was saying, what was the topic of their debate? Was it even touched on? Because it wasn't
a debate. It was a discussion. People need to stop using that word.
What was the topic?
I think it is religion? No, what was their discussion about? You guys remember?
Yeah, they went all over the place.
Yeah, I don't remember what the actual topic was at this point.
So what was the point of having a discussion?
Something about science.
Was it about science? No, I think this went into that.
They went into philosophy and all this time. It was wild.
I know what it was. Is there a justification for holding to theism or religion in society? And I don't think they really even got too much into that. Because right out of the gate, Dean was like, "Oh, in science, they're all a bunch of meanie and poopy heads." and they're persecuting Christians in science. Then it's like, what the hell are you talking about, Dean? I know a lot of Christian scientists. They don't think they're being persecuted. And then he says there's an atheist infiltration of science. I'm like, I don't see that either. I mean, everybody I've ever talked to that's in science, whether they're theist or non-theist, they all pretty much tell me the same thing. When you go into that laboratory, you leave your theology at the door. Pretty much all of them tell me that. So,
well, no, given that the pioneers of modern science were all theists. It's kind
we're
of
talking about modern science, right? Modern science is I know Dean hates
talking about the guys who paved the way
but
for modern science.
What's that?
Yep, that's actually kind of not relevant because at that period of time, everyone was a theist.
Yeah, if they were alive today, who knows what they would think?
Yeah, if someone actually had atheistic beliefs or was agnostic, they wouldn't say so. It wasn't acceptable. So that's not really a very good argument.
Well, they all made it clear that their desire was to uncover God's blueprint. Well, they didn't say it in those words, but yeah.
Well, that probably was the mindset of most. But again, you had people back in the day that believed, Zeus was a god, and we still have ones today, obviously, like Ocean. But most of those people back then, if they were brought forward today, would probably be like, oh, well, you know what? We know how lightning is. We don't have to believe in Zeus. So
I thought it was Odin.
What's the difference? Yeah, Odin, Zeus, whatever. Yeah, I get that. Sorry, Ocean. Yeah, I'm sorry, I messed up on your god. My apologies.
Newton thought atheists were morons.
I think,
Steve, I would be on the lookout for lightning in the near future.
Yeah, no shit, right?
You know?
But it's okay. I mean, their arguments back then was from a different point of view because that's what they grew up with, right? And again, who knows what they would argue now?
I mean, the Western world wasn't built by men like Aaron Rov. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But again, they were the ones that were the gatekeepers to the education. I mean, throughout history, religion has always been the ones that didn't want people to be literate. They were the ones that wanted to keep people in the dark. And this is true. I mean, I know you guys don't believe this, but they did want to keep people dumb and uneducated and not being able to read, so they could read to them the Bible and interpret it to the way they wanted to. That's a fact.
Certain religious
That's not
people.
quite why, but
that did happen. That may not be the reasoning, but that did occur.
No, but it also wasn't entirely true. I mean, during the Middle Ages, well, you know that the university system was created to train priests originally.
Right, of course.
And then it expanded. Okay. During the Middle Ages, and Richard, Godbehere is the one who can really talk about this better than I can. They used to have these big debates in the towns where the universities were situated. And these debates were free for all, just, hands off. Blasphemy rules were not enforced. And people would go to see these debates just like they would go to see sporting events nowadays. And sometimes they got, ended up in fisticuffs. But the thing is, here these, the intellectuals of the day were arguing about subjects, and the regular people were just listening to them and absorbing all this knowledge. So it's not so much that they tried to keep people ignorant. Otherwise, they wouldn't let them listen to these debates. It had a lot more to do with, one, the class system, and two, the problem is there were so many heresies, so many various different interpretations, that the church felt that people reading the Bible for themselves, they'd misunderstand what was in it.
Right, they would interpret it the wrong way. Yeah.
They would interpret it the wrong way because that kept happening. And, today, of course, first of all, I disagree with that. Obviously, I think people should be able to really read the Bible their own way. But even today, we have lots of people have their own little churches, even here on YouTube, because they've read the Bible and they think they know what it says.
G-Man.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. So you can understand the concern that people would have back then, especially in a feudal society.
Yeah, it's not just the Bible. There's a lot more. There's a lot more than that.
And I also think that they did. I mean, it helped keep them in power as well. Whether that was a direct reason or a consequence of it, that these people were looked up to as very holy figures and men of revered, to be revered, because they understood the Bible. They were able to interpret the Bible for the people that were literate. And
they also had to study for many years to do that, because even back in the Middle Ages, the university one of the reasons they didn't want priests to marry was because it took years, many years, to finish the university system. It was like, I don't remember how many, but at least like 7 years. And so they said you can't marry and do these studies at the same time. So it was discouraged even for people who weren't going to become priests. Of course, it was all men back then, to marry while they were at the university, because they couldn't they couldn't do both at the same time. All of their efforts had to go into study.
Yeah, dedicated to study and to God.
Right.
Oh, by the way, can I put a shout out to Sugar? Because I don't see her very often. She's in the live chat. Sugar!
Who?
Sugar! Oh, come on. You guys don't remember Sugar? God,
Yeah,
Sugar, that's how long it's
just haven't
been.
heard.
Rebel Warnings for All Humanity. Is
I
Sugar.
know. I was like, well,
I
and
miss
we
her.
do have people around here. We do have people around here with similar names.
That's true.
So I hadn't heard from Sugar for so long. I thought maybe you were talking about a different person.
No, she says I thought somewhere along the line she said she wanted to come back around again. So I will have to put a shout out to her because I do miss Sugar. Yeah, Sugar sighting. Yeah, and Sugar's cool people, man. But anyways, let's wrap this up. I'm going to leave you guys with your guys' last thoughts on this. I hope there's some takeaway. I don't hope this was unproductive, to say the least. And I don't think Dean's going to get out of it. I'm sure he's going to have a 10-hour hangout if he watches this, and that's fine. I'm not going to bother with anything further. I'm done as far as that aspect of it. I don't think Casey or anybody else really, cares that much to really entertain the arguments that Dean's trying to make. Now, I know Dean and I guess Kyle are having a one-on-one session on Sunday on the Non Sequitur show, which I'm all fine with because I think Dean wants a objective ear, I guess, and totally cool with that. Let him have a discussion. But I don't see why we need to really have any more discussions about what Dean's trying to argue for. I don't really know where to go with it. I mean, do you guys kind of agree with that? You think we should have more discussion? How many discussions do we have on Dean's argument that nobody even gets? I don't know what his argument is. Nobody's been explaining it to me yet.
Let's beat it into its glue.
It's all atheists are bad. That's it. That's just a whole shtick.
Not all atheists, the ideological ones.
Okay, well, yeah, okay, fine. But you know what? Ideological Christians are bad. So what? That's not an argument. That's just a part of reality. And I don't focus on the ideologues of any kind, whether they're atheist or theist. I don't bother with that type. They don't hang out with me. I don't hang out with them. And they're very far and few between. I'd say that they're 3 standard deviations from norm. There's not that many of them. And he seems to think that's the norm for some reason. I don't get it. I don't. It's just a waste. It seems like a waste of mental energy to me. So, but anyways, you guys, you want to get the last word because you kind of fostered all this. And by the way, like I said, I really do appreciate you coming in. Very respectful conversation. You guys are awesome. So I'm gonna leave you with the last word. Injun, do you want to say something to take us out?
Let Derek talk.
You want Mr. Brass too?
Sure.
All right, go ahead, Brass. Take it away. Brass?
Oh, so
I don't think his internet. I think his internet failed. All right. Well, you know what?
I'll say.
No, you're roboting.
I think. This
Yeah, it's not going to work. I have to. I have to mute you, Brass. You're not working. You're roboting really hard. Yeah, that's not going to work. Anyways, Frankie, how about you give us the last word?
I don't
Plug your show or something.
show.
Geek Room. It's called the Geek Room.
It's called the Geek Room. Yeah, basically that's it.
Okay, there you go. Go watch the Geek Room. Good night.